I'm Allister Heath, and once again I'm responding to some of the excellent reader comments on my latest article. Today we begin with a comment from Alex Watkin. So Alex is saying Britain will recover after Labour is out of office. The middle classes have themselves to blame for higher taxes by voting reform, which effectively nobbled the Tories. The middle class should vote Tory to avoid more taxes in future Labour governments. Well, I don't really agree. The truth is the Tories massively increased taxes over the last few years, and what Labour are really doing is continuing this trend. Even in some cases it's the same taxes they're putting up. For example, the Tories started the war on non-doms, Labour completed the war on non-doms. And I can't really blame the public for voting for reform in desperation. I personally supported the Conservatives, but I knew it was a doomed cause. So I'm not too surprised that Labour won the last election. There was simply no other way. What the electorate was basically saying was, we've tried the Tories, they failed, we're now going to give Labour a go. It turns out that Labour have imploded disastrously. There has been a collapse in their popularity. They're down to maybe 22, 23, 24% in the polls. But crucially, the Conservatives haven't recovered. They've fallen even further, and Reform has emerged as the biggest party at the moment in British politics in terms of the share of the vote expressed in opinion polls and also at the most recent local elections. So I think British politics is realigning. What we need is a party with the right to emerge ahead, be it the Tories or Reform, and we need that party to have dramatically different policies on taxation and public spending than what came before, especially during the 14 years of Tory government and also the last year of Labour government. The next question comes from Jeff Allen. Why aren't universal credit and personal independence payments taxed like all other income? I think there's a broader question here, which is basically, should you simply pay tax on your benefits, and that would be a way of reducing the net spending on benefits. But personally, I don't like that. I don't really like the idea that the government gives from one hand and takes from the other. I'd much rather that the payments were just lower in the first place. I think we need a smaller government, not a circular system whereby money is endlessly recycled and passed from one person to another, from a bureaucrat to the private sector, back to the private sector, to the bureaucrat, and so on. So I'm not really a fan of taxing benefits. I just would like a drastic reform of the benefit system so that welfare becomes a hands up, not a hands out, and that there are strict conditions attached to all benefits, and that the purpose of the welfare state is to help those who truly cannot help themselves, but nobody else. The next question comes from Mark Hammond. Mark is saying, isn't it strange how quickly the markets reacted to Truss, yet when it comes to this government's handling of the economy, silence? Well, you're right, there's no hysterical reaction from traders, from banks, or from international financial institutions, unlike during the very brief Liz Truss premiership. But that doesn't mean that the markets are relaxed or sanguine. They realise something terrible is happening. Gilt yields have shot up. It's costing the government a lot more now to borrow money, even than during the height of the Liz Truss panic. This is because there's now a growing risk premium on government borrowing in this country because our budget deficit is out of control, the national debt is much too high, and there's a disconnect that is growing between the economy's capacity to generate wealth and the size of the state, our expectations for redistribution and public spending. They're just not matched up. We are careering towards another financial crisis. Even massive tax increases, which I predict will happen this autumn, will not be enough to patch up the problem. In fact, Britain is nearing a tipping point. We're about to reach a doom loop, be sucked into this doom loop whereby taxes have to go up because the deficit is too big, but when you put up taxes, nothing really happens, revenues don't go up enough, and the deficit either stays very large or widens further. And when you are in that doom loop, you're in real trouble. So I do think the financial markets are gradually gearing up for a really bad problem maybe next year. The fact that they're not hysterical about it doesn't mean that they haven't spotted the problem. The next question is from Damien MacDonald. Britain will never recover, you say. Yes, it will, but it will have to get worse first. That's what's happened in the 1970s, and then you get a Thatcher. Not sure who it is yet, but we do create great leaders when required. Damien, I hope you're right. I will just point you to the situation in Argentina for counterpoint. Argentina is currently run by President Milei, who is probably the best leader anywhere in the world. He's a brilliant economist who's also a populist. He's very popular, and he has massively reduced the budget deficit, and is finally tackling Argentina's fiscal crisis. The only problem is it's taken 70 years or so for Argentina to get its act together. Argentina peaked probably in the 1950s or maybe the 1960s. At the time, it was one of the world's richest countries. It was probably in the top 10 wealthiest countries in terms of GDP per capita. It was like a European country. It was richer than many southern European countries. It was a place that people might choose to go to, just like now people choose to move to Australia or the UAE or America or whatever. But it then decline set in, and there was crisis after crisis. There was hyperinflation, not just once but several times. The middle classes were wiped out at least twice. The country just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And it took almost forever for someone finally to come along to sort out the problem. So this is why I'm nervous. This is why I'm pessimistic. In the 1970s, we were very lucky. After a short period of decline, we got a new leader who sorted everything out in the person of Lady Thatcher. It's not certain that this time around we will necessarily get the counter-reaction to the crisis on time. It might take a very, very long time. Decline can happen. Countries rise as well as decline. I fear that Britain is declining, and we would need a very, very strong, very intellectually powerful, very prepared and organised government of the right to fix all of this. The next question is from Mark Locke. I think it's justifiable for the wealthy to pay more taxes to help the less fortunate, such as those who are unemployed. Why all the doom and gloom? Well, yes, obviously, we live in a system where the rich do pay massively more tax than the poor. We have a very progressive tax system. There's a lot of redistribution. This has always been the case. This was the case in 1988 when tax for the rich was slashed. It was true in the 1990s when the rich paid a lot of tax, but we did not have a system that discriminated against them, that deliberately tried to hurt them. We did not have a semi-socialist system as we increasingly have today. So the question is not, do the rich have to pay more than the poor? Obviously, if you earn 10 times more than somebody else, you should pay at least 10 times more in taxation. But that is not what's going on now. We've now entered a realm of class war where the government is trying to grab as much as they can from the rich to hurt them, to equalise income, not to maximise economic efficiency, not even to maximise the receipts from the welfare state for the purpose of redistribution. This is very different, and this is why we're seeing an exodus of millionaires. Thousands and thousands are leaving the UK. We're seeing an exodus of billionaires. Many of them are also leaving the UK. And more enlightened countries that understand that you need to encourage people to make money, to work hard, to invest, to build businesses, to grow businesses, are attracting this capital and this talent, and their economies are doing better than our economy. So the question is not, should the rich pay more tax than the poor? Obviously they should. But it is, should you have a crazy punitive system as we have today, or should you have a much flatter kind of tax system where you focus on boosting the economy, generating as much wealth as possible, safe in the knowledge that you will then have more available to help the truly less fortunate. That is it for today. As always, thank you to all our subscribers for your comments. Keep them coming, and we will try and respond to as many of you as possible.